5 seconds to go. Start. Sir, with regard to the family planning program of the Government of India, it is true that our government and our country have been perhaps the pioneers in respect of taking advantage of the World Health Organization expertise and assistance in regard to family planning program, and that in the last several years one cannot ignore some of the good sides of the achievements of the family planning program. Sir, I would like to invite the attention of the government to two aspects of the matter. One is that after having got this experience of some years, more than a decade or two, can we not have some kind of a sustained uniform policy with regard to the various projects and programs of family planning, particularly with regard to two things. One is the assistance that we would like to rope in of the voluntary agencies, because by its very nature this is not something which the government can do. Government can spend money, government can give encouragement, but basically it is a question of educating the people, educating the illiterate, and educating the people in the countryside, and also taking the maximum possible help from the voluntary social institution in which a large number of women organizations are also doing a lot of good work. In this regard, the complaint I hear is that the policy of the government in regard to incentives offered is not quite free from faults. Every now and then, different kinds of incentives are tagged on while attracting more people. Then those incentives are not maintained for a particular period of time, so that certain incentives are withdrawn and certain new incentives are given. The result is that the interest in the program is for the incentives offered rather than for the ultimate objective of controlled and healthy family planning. I would therefore request the government to ensure that the family planning program has a certain sustained outlook, that the incentives are well thought out, and that there is no change every now and then in regard to this or that incentive. Then this should be free from one very serious error. This is not only an error, I would say it is a criminal thing. In the name of operations, large number of old people, children and boys are also booked into the whole thing because they get some extra financial incentive. Now I come to the demand of the freedom fighters. I endorse very warmly many of the points which my honorable friend has made when he talked about genuine and bogus freedom fighters. In fact, the government of India itself, in various replies in the past in this august house, have told us about how many bogus cases were found out. Here we must remember that to some extent we, the elected members of state legislature and parliament, are also responsible for giving false information or false certificates. I am not saying that this or that particular person had done it, but when the government say that in the absence of any proper proof, the certificate of a member of parliament or member of legislative assembly should be attached, surely the member of parliament or member of legislative assembly should be 100% sure of his facts, and he just should not do it by way of obliging any person. It is there where the bogus cases come. I am only making an appeal through this speech to members of legislative assembly in a state legislature and members of parliament here that we take extraordinary care so that we do not issue certificates liberally or irresponsibly, because otherwise it become more difficult for the government. The second point is that some freedom fighters are not yet included in this scheme. I do not know whether the minister has ready information at hand in this regard. There is also the project of old freedom fighters' homes. I remember there is one in Delhi, but it is neglected. Some of the old freedom fighters who are living in Delhi are staying in this house. There is no one to look after them. They are not given proper food, proper drinking water, or hot water for bath, and so on. Because they are old and infirm, naturally they need these things all the more. Therefore, I would like the government to take particular care of these old freedom fighters' homes. Lastly, although I know that the government of India have paid a lot of money to these freedom fighters, I see from letters received by me not only from Gujarat but from other parts of the country as well, that the papers of freedom fighters are not disposed of, although the applications had been properly sent through the state administrations and more than 2 years have elapsed. Some of them are above 65. If they have to wait for another 1 or 2 years to get their pensions, they may not be available to take it. We are prepared to give some additional grants if the minister wants it that way to them. Stop.